I need to take a really quick break from this podcast. And if you are a loyal listener of the Fearless Investor podcast, you're probably either a business owner or looking to start a business. And for that reason, you need to make sure you're doing things correctly, down to the T. From forming the correct LLC to bookkeeping to understanding the tax code and more. It's all really the boring stuff, but it can make or break your business. In fact, if you aren't doing it correctly, you could be like 98% of other business professionals in the US and overpay on taxes. Don't do that, guys. Be the 2%. And that's why I rely on Easier Accounting, and so should you. Easier Accounting is a team of tax professionals that will set up your LLC, keep your books, file your taxes, and they can even repair your credit. And just so you know, I myself use Easier Accounting, and this came after using a similar company that, really being blunt here, completely ripped me off. So when I started using Easier Accounting, I came in a little bit skeptical, but as I started talking to them, I could really tell they had my best interests at heart. And you know me, if I'm not a professional, I'm not going to do it myself. I'm going to outsource that stuff. And I hope you will do the same and use that same mindset to hire professionals to help you form and manage your business. Easier Accounting is absolutely the way to go. Go check them out at fearlesskyle.com/easier accounting. All right, guys, welcome into another episode with Richie Khandelwal, the CEO of PriceLabs. And last month, we talked about this new release. We really, pun intended, hyper-focused on hyper-local performance. And so this is now a deeper dive into some of those new features that you can actually use. You'll see if you've already been kind of getting into the weeds with the new things about PriceLabs, you're noticing, especially in customizations, a different look, a few different new features. Maybe you've already mastered it, maybe you haven't, but Richie's here to kind of talk about 3 or 4 that are really important for you to know about and what has changed. So, but before we get into that, as always, fearlesskyle.com/PriceLabs. You can get a few things there. All the episodes that we've done with Richie, again, we do this once a month. Number 2 is you can get your PriceLabs free trial for 30 days started right there on that site. And then also, I just released a brand new course, 5 simple steps to getting your PriceLabs set up and optimized. You can get that absolutely for free. fearlesskyle.com/PriceLabs. Richie, welcome in, man. Can't wait to show people these new features and how they can start using them.
Very cool. Thank you so much for having me again, Kyle. Last month, like you said, we talked about HLP. HLP is not something that you can really see because it's all happening in the background, right? You only see the prices move. You don't really see anything. But this month, I want to talk about some of the new features that you can actually visually see on the product as well, right?
Let's do it.
So let me quickly share my screen here, and you'll have to tell me if you see my screen, Kyle.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. And do you see my entire screen?
I do.
Okay, fantastic. Cool. So this is the most common screen that you'll come up on when you're accessing PriceLabs, right? This is the screen that you walk in. And Kyle, I'm once again going to leverage your expertise. The columns on the right, the 3 columns: occupancy, next 15 days, next 30 days, next 60 days. Kyle, you know this in and out. This is health metrics, right? Ignore my numbers that look so bad because it's a dummy account. But what you can see is I am 0% occupied, but market is 46% occupied. In the next 15 days, in the next 30 days, I am 0% occupied, market is 36% occupied. It's in red color. It wants me to take action. It wants me to do something, but it knows that you're doing bad, right?
Yep.
Now, what we did is we realized that just these metrics were not enough, right?
Okay.
When you're trying to figure out how to look at your market, right? Or how to look at your property, every person looks at it a little bit differently, right? So we introduced a new section called performance metrics, right? And that you can access via this add metrics thing here. If you click on this add metrics, now you see these 3 metrics.
Mm-hmm.
I can change any of these, right, if I didn't want them, or I can also add more metrics, right? Now I'm just going to add a metric, right? If I try to add a metric, now you see all of these new things that you can add as a metric, right? So you can see total occupancy, which is what we were looking at.
Right.
You can see adjusted occupancy. Adjusted occupancy is if I have like some days that I've blocked for maintenance, or if I have owner blocks, or if I have some kind of blocks on my calendar, I should really not be looking at that occupancy. So adjusted occupancy. Total revenue, again, fairly straightforward, right? I can, by the way, occupancy so far you could only look at forward looking, right? Now you can also see past looking, past 7 days, past 15
Sweet.
days, past
Oh,
30
that's
days, right?
great.
So you can kind
That's
of
great.
understand your performance, right?
Yeah.
Same with total revenue. You can look at it future or you can look at it past, right?
And that total
You can,
revenue, that's going to compare a like for like listing 3 bedroom compared to a 3 bedroom.
so total revenue does not compare. No,
Okay.
no. Total revenue does not compare. Some of the metrics compare, not all of the metrics compare, right?
Okay.
Uh,
So
RevPAR,
it's just
again,
going
you
to
can,
tell you your total revenue.
it's going to tell you your total revenue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood. Understood. Okay.
Right? It's going to tell you your RevPAR. It's going to tell you your ADR. It's going to tell you also, this is one of the very common things that we see. A lot of people have their minimum prices set sometimes too high, and we're hitting far too many dates on minimum price, right? And we're not able to go down, especially when the market's soft or if we're in low demand seasons.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
need that ability to go down, right? And so how many, like in the next 30 days, how many days am I hitting minimum price on, for example, right? Um, we also recommend base price to you based on how you're performing relative to market, right? And I'll show that to you in a quick second. But you may have set up a base price, but what you can also introduce is recommended base price to base price ratio, a recommended base price to your base price ratio, so that you can see how far off you are. Last book night, a fantastic metric, because sometimes you may just not be getting bookings, right? Your occupancy may look great future looking, but
Hmm.
maybe in the last 30 days you've not received a booking, right? That's not great. So you want to see that. And then similarly, some other metrics, right? Nights booked, or bookings pick up, like how many bookings have come in, or market penetration, right? How penetrated I am, how am I doing relative to market? So rather than seeing this kind of a bubble, which is like 0%, which is 0% your occupancy, and relative to market, market is at 46, it will now show you actually a number that says, are you, if greater than one, you're doing good, if less than one, then you're doing worse, right?
This is
So let me
great.
bring some of these in, right? Let me bring, say, minimum price. So sorry. Next 30 days. I'm also going to, and I can add any number of these columns, right?
Okay.
I am also going to bring in market penetration index for next 30 days. And I am also going to say, bring in total revenue for, this is going to be zero for me, unfortunately,
Yeah, that's
on this
fine.
one, right? And I'm also going to bring in RevPAR as a metric, right?
Okay.
And then I'm
Let's do
just
it.
going to update. So now this table will become a bigger table, right? Because I've now introduced all of these new columns, right? But now what you can see, unfortunately, this is all zero for me. I should have picked a better thing,
Oh,
right?
that's okay.
But as you can see, here it's telling me I am 0% occupied versus 46% occupied. We understood all of these metrics, right? I could have actually changed. Let me change this one to total occupancy past 30 days, right? Which is also going to be, I think, zero. Um, but now I can see, hey, in the past 30 days, I was 0% occupied.
Right.
Maybe I was
The
something
market
better,
was
right?
55.
Market was 55. Next 30 days, I'm 0% occupied, but market right now is 36%. But realize that the final occupancy is yet to be achieved, right? Because there are still days left, right? Versus this is final. Uh, Total occupancy next 60 days, I can see 17% of my days are hitting minimum, right? Now, if I was in a real life situation like this, where I was 0% occupancy, and if 17% of my days in the next 30 days were hitting minimum, I'd want to do something about that minimum.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. You want to drop it, right?
exactly. I'd want to
Yeah.
drop my minimum, right? Because I'm like, I like every night that I don't get booked is lost revenue, right? So I'd
Yep.
want to drop that, right? Sure, you may want to, in some cases, keep your minimums high, depending on whatever your breakthrough is, or your uh, want to take a guest, but that hopefully helps, right? Total revenue. What you'd be able to compare, Kyle, to your question, is you'd see your revenue as of next 30 days, but you'd also see same time last year how much revenue were you on for those 30 days,
Okay. Yeah.
right?
No, this is
And
awesome, man. I love that
similarly,
all these metrics have been added. This is
yeah.
great.
So you can see all of these metrics, and now we take it a little bit further with filtering, right? If you have a couple of listings, it doesn't matter. You can quickly see this, right? But if you have like 20 listings, right? What do you do? Like, it's so hard to see all of this. Like, I can create certain specific filters where I can just go in and say, hey, if my total occupancy for next 30 days is less than 50, and let me say minimum price in the next 30 days is greater than equal to say 10%, right? So my occupancy is low. I am hitting a lot of minimum prices, and let me also say my market penetration index also for the next 30 days is less than 1, right? Which is I'm performing worse than market, right? So I understand all of those three things.
Okay.
Now I can filter this. By the way, I could have saved this filter as well for future use, right? But I can filter this, so it'll only show me the listings that fit that criteria.
Yeah, that's so
That
good. I
way,
mean,
now I know this listing is the first thing that I want to action on. So you
yeah,
can
well,
you can
and
think of work off your logic,
and that's
and
the greatest thing too. I mean, you have to have, as a host, a knowledge of what you're looking for. Let's first of all establish this. If you have one listing, you don't have to worry about all of the creating saved filters. You just need to start learning what metrics am I looking for. But if you have 50 listings and you open up PriceLabs, your eye in the past was really just going to, okay, what's the least occupied, right? Where
yeah,
that may not be the metric that you care the most about. And if you care the most about revenue, if you care the most about how was my last 30 days, if you care about how you're compared to the market or how many minimum days are
yeah.
hitting, this is going to just be able to bring the most important properties to your attention. And I love, love, love that.
Yeah, absolutely right. And like I said, right, like once I create this, I've created my strategy of how I want to look at my listings, right? I can just go in and save this filter as uh, Kyle Richie webinar. I don't know if I can use the hyphen. I'll see. I can now.
Okay.
This filter is saved, right? So every time I'm in Price Labs, I can maybe, oh, I just want to see all of my sync on properties, right? And I do show listings. It'll show me that listings, right?
Nice.
But then if I want to go in and say, oh, you know what, I'd saved this strategy of that I'd come up with on the Kyle Ritchie webinar, and I want to see those listings, right? So it'll show me those listings, right? So,
That's
so
good.
that's what we've done with performance metrics. Hopefully you find it very, very useful, right? And you're able to, if you're a single host, you don't need to worry about filters, right? Or if you're like, you have a couple of properties, you don't need to worry about filters. You can, but do play with the performance metrics to understand how you want to look at your business and how you want to evaluate your business, and it'll give you better sense of how to play around with things. And if you're multi-listing host, along with the metrics, use the filter options so that you can be more seamless in using all of this. So that's
That's
performance
good.
metrics. Any
That's
questions
good.
on that?
No, that's great. I think we got time
Cool.
for one
One more.
more feature, and
All
I
right.
would love to see what
Let's
else
do the
people should know
next
about.
one.
Yeah.
So I've reviewed my prices, right? This is everyone's used to this calendar. A lot of us are used to this calendar, right? Um, Typically, now PriceLabs automatically comes up with its pricing. It comes up with bunch of stuff, right? But people may want to change or control PriceLabs based on their own personal needs, their personal understanding of the market, or operational needs, right? And this is where customizations came in. So, but what happened was when you went into customizations, there was this massive laundry list of customizations, and you weren't sure
Hmm.
which
Right.
customization to use, right? So now that's changed. If you go into PriceLabs, right, the first customization that you'd see always is stay restrictions. We do think minimum stay settings is something that you should absolutely do. And Kyle
100%.
and I have done a webinar, a video on that. Please do go check it out. But now what we've introduced is something called as smart presets, right? We have these 50 customizations. Some people use them depending on what their limitations are or what their capabilities are or how they want to tweak their revenue. But we've introduced smart presets because these are the most relevant customizations that we think are for your property, right? Especially like if you tell us I'm a short-term rental property, you don't see it here because I've not selected it when I was starting, but I'm a short-term rental property, I'm a mid-term rental property, or I am a multi-unit hotel, right? It will show me what customizations that you should play with. Right now, you may choose to
Nice.
leave PriceLabs assets, or you may choose to play with it. Right. So let's say, for example, right now you'd see all of these customizations. It's telling me, hey, customize last minute prices. PriceLabs market driven defaults. Right. This is also a big change that I did not talk about. But when we introduced HLP, it also allowed us to take over last minute prices, and no one else does this, we are able to actually come up with, hey, for your market, for your hyper local market, how
Mhm.
should we be discounting your last minute rates to come up on top, right? So
Awesome.
everyone will see this differently, right? Like
Yeah.
on this account, I'm seeing, hey, discounts starting at 7 days out, and this we have to change this long language, but it starts like from today to next 7 days, and at 7 days we'd like today we'd be discounting at 40%, and at day 7 it's 0%.
Very nice. And before you go on to the next ones, I think the big question is that I get from a lot of people, which of these, when I'm just starting out, should I actually go in there and change myself? And, tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I tell people these customizations are already doing work for you. And if you're just starting out, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Let it do its thing. And then if you don't like how it's doing its thing, then you can make some tweaks.
100%, right? There is one customization that I tell everyone to apply, which is
Okay.
stay restrictions, right? Because
Yeah,
it's a
100%. Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
it's one that you need to do. Now when you come into smart presets, right? Here's the thing: PriceLabs is going to continue to modify its algorithm, improve its algorithm, to make sure it works for your market, right? If you edit a customization, remember that now we no longer have control of that piece, right? So, like as a simple example, last minute prices, right? If you were using PriceLabs as default previously, we had a certain default, and now we were able to migrate that to market driven because you had not changed anything about how PriceLabs controls last minute, right? But if you overrode our thing and said, I don't care about PriceLabs algorithm, I actually want to do flat 50%, right? Now we're not able to control it. So even if we improve our algorithm, we won't be able to bring it in here. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'd say don't touch it unless you really have a reason to. But even in that, we think the only ones that you should really have a reason to touch are the ones under smart presets, right? What we've also done is we've introduced this tip thing, right? So if you put your mouse on the tip, it will show you, for example, for most customers, we recommend doing default. If you don't prefer taking, or if you prefer taking far out bookings, then we'd say change this to no far out, right? So what I mean by that is we, like you're saying, premiums start 60 days out and gradually increase to 20% over the next 100 days, and then
Hmm.
constant 100%, right? But if
Right.
someone really wanted to take far out bookings, right, and not go for like increased ADR, right, we'd be like, go in here and select no far out prices, because then we're not going to increase specific increase for just far out, right? There'd be a dynamic pricing that will go through, but no additional increase, right? So if you go over these tips, we've made it super easy. Now, if I was a part hotel or a hotel, and if I switch that, I'm going to see a different set of customizations that it will tell me to saying, hey, now use this for your market, right? For example, if I go into
Yeah.
seasonality and if I say, um, sorry, not seasonality, if I go to demand sensitivity factor, it will also tell me, if I was a hotel, it will tell me, hey, what data do you want to use? Do you want to use primarily short-term rental data? Do you want to use hotel data? Do you want to use some other kind of data? It'll give all of that control back to us.
That's good. I mean, I think what I love the most about this is you've been able to now section it off in short term, midterm, and multi unit,
And
which
multi-unit.
really is such a huge difference, right? We all kind of
Yeah.
assume Price Labs just short term rentals or Airbnb, but then what happens when I've got a 10 unit apartment complex? It completely changes the dynamic, completely
Yeah.
changes it. So
Yeah.
I love that, man. I love that. Any other customizations before we wrap this up?
Very cool. The two customizations that I generally recommend if you're thinking prices are too aggressive or not aggressive, right? Number one is the demand factor customization, where I would say instead of recommended, if you think prices are fluctuating too much, you can make it low or high, right? If you make it low, prices will fluctuate less and will be more around your base price. If you think price labs is like not not like fluctuating a lot, you can then do high, right? In which case, we like for high demand days, we'll go really high. For low demand days, we'll go really low, right? By really high or really low, I mean roughly 20% difference, right?
Okay.
And then what you can also do is, sorry, that's the one that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, no, and just so people know, the demand factor sensitivity. I typically like to use that if I have a overperforming property, right? I'll get aggressive. If I'll turn it on to aggressive. If I have an underperforming property, I'll typically turn it on to conservative. That's typically how I've used it. And then for all the other ones that are just kind of like performing where I expect them to be, I just don't turn that on.
Which makes sense,
Yeah.
right? But again, realize, like, if you do turn on, if you do have customizations turned on, and if then you do need to analyze and say, hey, now my property has become high performing, I need to switch it to something else, right? You don't want to stick to conservative in that scenario, for example.
Yep, absolutely. Richie, congrats on all the new features. I really, really love what you've been able to add to the metrics. I love that you've separated a lot of the, short-term, midterm, and multi-unit. I just think it makes this such a more accurate tool for people to use. It was already great. Now it's just like you guys are taking it to another level. So again, if you're not using PriceLabs, like, what are you waiting for, guys? fearlesskyle.com/PriceLabs. Get your free 30-day trial started with an onboarding training with our link on that page. Listen to all of the other episodes with Richie. And if you're just like, I just want to get PriceLabs started off, and I just want a really easy, like, how do I get it started? I made a course, 5 simple steps to getting your PriceLabs set up. It's at fearlesskyle.com/PriceLabs. Everything is on that link. Richie, we'll see you again next month. Thanks so much as always, man.